Alright folks, what is up? As I turn up my microphone because I shut my computer off just before I started this. Yes, I actually cleaned my computer out, and yes, it was quite dusty, although it was running fine. It actually wasn't running hard or hot, even when it was hot in here. And I was playing World of Warships. The fans weren't running high at all. So the position I've put it in really does help minimize the heat compared to what was. So I'm really firmly believing at this point that the problem with the frame rate is the truck itself, this truck that's been modded in, which is fine. We're either going to sell it or dump it off to one of our drivers. I'll probably sell it because I want to turn the thing off. I love this truck, I really do, but if it's going to cause frame rate issues, then forget it. Or was the recent update that they did 1.20 that's causing the slowdown. But my computer's cleaned out. I've turned SLI on for this recording. So we're running SLI with the physics on the CPU. So we're fully dedicated to graphics in 2 cards. So we've got double the processing power of what we normally would. We'll see how it goes. Anyways, let's get going and see if today can go better than the last couple days. And sadly, the frame rate looks like it's going to be about the same. Which means that the truck's probably the issue, or the update. But it's alright. I mean, it's not terrible. Hang on. I need a little bit more volume. Okay. Now we're good. Just gonna let it coast itself down the hill here. No need to accelerate this in any way, shape, or form. And we're just going to take it slow because this does not look like it's going to be fun up here. Although it looks kind of like a big turning area. Oh, it will be alright. The trailer will clear just fine. And we're good. Yeah, so we'll see how what happens when I switch to another truck and take it out. Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, we'll see what happens with another truck when I take it out. And I don't know which way you think I'm supposed to be going there, computer, but it ain't that way. Whatever. This should work just as well, provided we can get out of here. I wonder if I can force a stop. Yeah. Well, it may not be the game either. It could be like pro mods or something that's causing it, but it's still not bad. So I'm just gonna run with it and then we'll dump the truck and see how it goes. I'm saying, I'm pretty sure the truck's the issue, just based on the fact that when we jump out of the truck, the frame rate goes up. Come on. Bad corner. Getting how big the truck is again. Whatever. Oops. So one thing I want to talk about for sure is my future plans. And I know that somebody out there has a tendency to listen to my videos and could pass this information along. I'd really rather you not right now because things can change. And anything's possible. But I've come to the conclusion, almost 100% positive, that I'm going, when everything is said and done, move back to the mainland. Didn't mean to slow down that much. Thanks, dude. And although I'm not fully decided, well, let me put it this way. Like I've been saying, I'm pretty much 100% positive that I'm going to move back to the mainland when everything's said and done. What is everything said and done? Like I said before, 2 years. Once Joy's car is paid for, once the majority of my credit cards are paid for and paid off, and my other credits like PayPal and Fingerhut, at least the majority paid off. Then I'm going to move to the mainland. I'm going to go back east. I love, despite all the faults, my sister-in-law. I love my mother-in-law. I do. I love my niece. She may end up being her and my nephew. I end up being the closest I ever actually have to having a child. And it's going to devastate me to leave. But I have my own mother and father on the mainland. And they're getting older. My mother could really use my help, but I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if I want to move back to Massachusetts. Moving from Hawaii to Massachusetts is going to be real hard. And my mother and I know at some point are going to clash. Because my mother, well, it's family heritage, so I'm not going to shirk away from saying it. My mother's bipolar. I have a mild case of bipolar. Yes, there is such a thing as mild bipolar. If my mother ends up on a downswing, and I end up on a downswing at the same time, which will inevitably happen, we will clash, and things will go horrible. It's happened before when I was younger. And as much as I love my mother, I kind of have this, I still have, I like to say that I've forgiven her, but I fully haven't. I still have a grudge against my mother. When my mother's car got stolen, I took her back to her house in New York. When my mother wanted to move from New York back to Massachusetts, I took my weekend, went to New York, helped her finish packing her truck, used my station wagon that I had at the time to pack the rest of her stuff, and drove her back to Massachusetts and moved all of her stuff into her new place. I was always there for my mother when she needed me. She wasn't always there for me. And I'm sorry if this information gets back to her. I don't know anyone who watches my videos that could tell my mother, but she wasn't. In times where I just wanted to see her, I couldn't because she was taking care of my nephews. And I wasn't supposedly allowed to come and see her. So she chose my nephews over me. Or not her, my cousins, her nephews over me. You know, and my, it's not the easiest thing in the world to talk about. You can imagine. And I've also lost my train of thought, so hang on while I try and gain it back. That's why one time my mother, I wasn't allowed to go see her, calls me up one day and says, I need you to help me move into a new apartment. And I told her at that point, no. You know, I told her to do what I tell her continuously to do to her sister, her Aunt Patty, who constantly uses and abuses my mother's kindness. Put your foot down and say no. And that's what I did. I put my foot down and so I said, no, you have Jacob and Cody, have them move you. You have them move you, because I'm not. So I can't say that my mother hasn't been there for me when my wife passed. My mother has changed a lot. But I still, surprising to me, it is honestly surprising to me, I still hold a grudge. When I was 19 years old, my mother kicked me out of the house in favor of my sister. Got restraining orders, my sister and my mother, against me. You know what I tried to do? I tried to protect my mother from my sister who was abusing her. I'm just gonna go around you. Who was using my mother. You know, in the end, it all kind of proved to be true. My sister hardly has anything to do with my mother. Well, I'm the one that used to talk to her every day when she called me on Skype. I have to admit that my father has been there for me. Maybe not in the ways I wanted, which caused problems, but in ways that I needed. And I was just too stubborn and too stupid to realize it. Anytime I've needed to be rescued, my father has been there for me, has rescued me. I can't deny that. When my mother kicked me out, my father took me in. My mother could really use my help, though. My mother could really use my help. You know, she has a lot of disabilities. And I do care about her, I do love her. She's my mother. She has a lot of disabilities, she has a lot of problems, and she could use somebody who is going to take care of her properly. Placement of those arrows, by the way, guys. Somebody who's she's not going to give money to and is going to take the money. And it's actually use the money to go do what they're supposed to do. But again, okay. We're all right. But my father is in a better position to help me. And I've always gone back to my mother when she's needed me. I think maybe it's time I gave my father what I feel like. I don't know how else to say it. What I feel like he deserves. He tried to raise me right. He did. I was just too much like my mother to realize it. He tried to teach me about saving money. He tried to teach me about paying bills. He tried to teach me and get me ready for the world. I lived a lot of my life in poverty because I refused to listen. I could have been in a much better place if I did. My father could use my help too. When he works, he does work still. He has a little part-time private business doing, of all things, karaoke. He caters to older clientele, older songs, events, and he loves it. And he got the idea after he came to me and my wife's wedding. He did. He loved karaoke. He loved singing. He had a grand time. And he started talking to my brother-in-law about machines and music and what to get. And he ended up going out and buying the stuff and starting his own little business. It's not a big thing. He doesn't work too often, but he does do it. And, you know, I wouldn't mind helping him with that. You know, had things gone differently, I could probably still been with my father right now. And we'd have one of the most successful bed and breakfasts on in Virginia, if not on the eastern seaboard. But to say that would also to say that I never would have met Joy. Not something I'd willingly give up, just to let you know. The other benefit to moving to Florida is a little less personal. Florida's weather is a lot more akin to Hawaii's weather. Yeah. It doesn't get overly cold in the winter. And, you know, the summer, the rain. It's not the same. I believe there's more humidity, maybe more moisture, but that's it. And hey, fuck, Disneyland's in Florida, or Disney World is in Florida. I have always wanted to visit Disney World. Who doesn't? I don't know too many people who don't want to go to Disney World. And living in Florida, I could go whenever the fuck I wanted, including the off season. It would be so fucking beautiful. Forget I'm passing you too. So, yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I won't lie and say that things about going back to Massachusetts aren't appealing to me, despite the weather. Ooh. Eee. Glad I turned on my high beams. Come on, baby, you can do it. Should I get gas here? I'm starting to run a little low. Nah, I'll be alright for now. sorry. So, yeah, it's, there are things in Massachusetts I've always wanted to do that I've never done. Like, I don't know if it still exists anymore, but the medieval tavern in Massachusetts is a place where they would put on a medieval performance. You know, like you know, they put on a play like in medieval times, and it was all medieval setup, medieval servant women that you have to call wenches to get their attention, and it's like eating at a medieval banquet, or a bit of a rowdy one at that. I don't know if it exists anymore, but that's something I'd love to do. And I'd love to see my old hometowns again: Kingston, Plymouth, Pembroke, Plimpton, Duxbury, Hanover. I'd love to see what's still there, what isn't, what's changed, and what hasn't. I'd love to do things like that. There's a baby gecko with his head just under my keyboard. Just went scuttle on my desk. Oh, now he's under the keyboard. I'm just gonna leave him alone. He's just a little guy, and they're very helpful, these little geckos. They'll get rid of a lot of the bugs, moths, flies, and whatnot. So, here's the thing though. In Florida, I could, if I had a good enough car, go to Massachusetts for visits. I could go up for like a week, hang out, try and do some things I've always wanted to do, come back home, save up for another year, go back again. The things I could do are pretty endless. But again, that's not to say that something can't happen here in Hawaii that will cause me to stay. Like finding somebody to fall in love with again. To be honest with you, that's probably the only thing that would keep me rooted here. Be honest with you on that. The only thing that would keep me rooted here was if I found somebody else. And despite the flurry of bullshit that I went through in the beginning, where I kind of was almost frantically looking, I'm not anymore. I'm just not. I have no interest. I have no desire. I don't care. Apparently, it's not uncommon to sharp corners, my worst enemy. As long as cars don't come. Apparently it's not uncommon that when losing a spouse or loved one that you've been with a long time, that you frantically search at first for anything. Anyone that'll pay attention to you, that'll reach out to you. Here we go again. I wasn't going that fast either. Yeah, shut up with your flashing the lights. Doesn't help I'm watching this little gecko which has emerged on the other side. Yeah, if there's another reason to give up this truck, it's these sharp freaking corners. Oh, if that was telling me a train was coming, well, I'm across anyways. So, that's kind of what I was doing. I hit dating sites, I hit whatever I could find, and I said I was a widow, but I had hidden how long, and after a while I actually felt like really, really horrible. I felt like crap for doing it. I couldn't understand why I would do such a thing. I felt like I had dishonored and defiled the memory of my wife by trying to find somebody else so soon. But when I started doing some research on grieving and losing a spouse, apparently it's common. Well, no, that's wrong. Like I said, it's not uncommon for somebody to start reaching out in all directions to find somebody else to fill the void. The feeling of emptiness, the feeling of loneliness, the lack of, love, the presence every day. Apparently, it's not uncommon to do that. Not everyone does it, but it's not uncommon. So, apparently, that's what I was doing. And then once things settled down and I started a bit of a healing process, my mind snapped to and said, you gotta stop this. If anything, you're just gonna make things worse. So everyone I started talking to, especially when I realized that, determined to get me with a train, aren't you, game? Especially when I realized the fact that a lot of the people I was talking to were like really, really young. Like I said, like one was 19 and the other one was like 20 something. Another one was in her 20s with a child. And it all started kind of striking me just how bad the situation I was putting myself in was. More considering that of those three that I just told you about, only one of them lived in the United States. The other two lived in other countries. It was just me reaching out, being in need. Despite the fact that my thing's not red, and despite the fact, well, let's take a look real quick. The next one isn't until I'd have to like pull off here, and this is a garage even, so that doesn't count. It would be there, and I don't know about my ability to make it this far. Yeah, I mean, even scrolling back a little bit. No, I'm just gonna rest it here, I think. And I'm gonna need some gas, obviously. Yeah, I just started yawning, so definitely this is a good choice right here. For having two giant fuel tanks on both sides of the truck. I didn't even take 800 liters. Yeah, this is cosmetic more than it's still beautiful though. I still fucking love it. Let's get some rest. All right, loan installment came through. Whatever. All right. So I'm gonna talk just a little bit more. Yeah, as things go, that's kind of things going on in my head right now. And like I was saying, I was pretty sure that one of them was just looking to move to the United States through the use of an older man who was on hard times. I just kind of was like, you know. And the other one actually, she ended up getting a job in the United States. She still continued to talk to me, so she didn't need me for that. So I believe that maybe she was a little bit more believable. But again, too young, too young. I really am not looking for somebody that young. Uh, as much as I like to think myself young still, I'm not. I'm not old, but I'm not young. I'm middle aged. But it's neither here nor there. So yeah, at some point I'm going to go back to the East Coast. I just don't think it's going to be Massachusetts. I'm really leaning towards moving with my father in Florida because I can get set up there. It's just getting everything paid for, getting the car paid for, getting my credit paid for, and losing weight. I have to continue my trend of losing weight. I lost 10 pounds in a month, and I'm pretty sure that I've lost more. I've already had a couple people saying I look good. I look like I've lost weight. I look in the mirror, I don't see it, but they say they do. So I have to keep that trend up. I have to keep going outside to exercise. I have to keep eating properly, not overeating. Um, Not eating the wrong stuff too often, trying to limit that as much as possible, but not to get discouraged if things go bad and get right back on the bandwagon again, which is what I've been doing. I gotta keep fighting for that. I gotta keep believing in that. I gotta keep doing it. It's everything to me to straighten my life out before I go anywhere. I love my Hawaiian family, but I have another family, my birth family, that's gonna need me. So I need to go home. Just not yet. Again, more depressing overtones on this video, and I can't help that. It hasn't quite been 3 months. The 12th will be 3 months. Only 3 months. And as I mentioned before, it feels like it's been so much longer. It feels like it's been years since she's gone. Every day is a struggle for me. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, every day is a struggle. Being able to do this helps. So, again, I thank you guys for your support. It'll get better. And I can look forward to things when I move back to the mainland. I can look forward to high speed internet, higher speed than what I have. Maybe I can get that elusive 5 megabytes up or better. And then maybe I can start streaming Wouldn't that be fun? Oh man, I'd love to stream. Get on Twitch and start streaming. That'd be fucking fantastic. Ah, we'll see. One day at a time. That's just how I'm taking it. One day at a time. But that's going to be me done for this episode, folks. Again, like I said, I'm sorry for the more depressing overtones of today's video, but they are going to happen, and there's not a lot I can do about it. But I hope you've at least enjoyed some of the antics on the road, the freaking sharp corners and whatnot. But other than that, this is one big bug. I'm going to be signing out.